Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. I will ride with this group. Seriously, man. Please. And away we go.
All right. It's a Thursday, and that means our friend Thor Nystrom from Matthew Berry's FantasyLife.com joins us here. And today is a very special day because not only is it Thursday, we are exactly a week away from the NFL draft, and today is the unveiling on FantasyLife.com of the annual Thor 500, where Thor ranks the 500 top draft prospects and has an NFL or other sports-related comp for all of them. And we're going to go through all 500.
You deserve, Thorsky, the flag. You deserve the flag for this.
Let's go.
There it is. There it is. Just caffeine, no sleep.
That's right.
500.
Look at him. He has an IV of Celsius into his veins. He might actually die.
498.
Yeah, we got the Celsius, we got the Bang, we got the Ghost, we got the Red Bull.
Oh gosh, dude.
Whatever it takes.
What are you gonna be? Your shirt's gonna be like this the whole show.
So we'll get into to all of it. We'll do another mock draft simulation, throw some fun stuff at Thor here. But MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air is helping to power Thor's day today, Judd.
Indeed, and here's why. Because they have helped to power the Sports Dad's house. How so? I'm going to tell you right now, in the past 2 months, water heater replaced, water softener replaced, furnace fixed, MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air do absolutely outstanding work. In fact, they're so good that Sports Dad allows them into his house to fix these things. And you all know Sports Dad doesn't allow anyone, including his co-host, into his home. And now you've got an opportunity to join MSP's Total Comfort Club. For $8 a month, you get an AC tune-up, a furnace tune-up, and a plumbing check, all included. Get ahead of the problems before they start. Members also get priority service. That means if something goes wrong, no waiting. They are at your house in a jiffy. Absolutely fantastic. And if you need repairs, members also get 10% off of service. Give them a call, 651-615-4292, or check out their website, callmsp.com. Call MSP.com. I'm going to tell you right now, just a tip here, surefire first-round pick.
Yes, and while Thor is drinking energy-related drinks now because he doesn't sleep this time of year, after it's all over, he can crack a Black Stack, one of those 755 New England IPAs, Slopes French Pilsners, Black Stack Brewing, which, by the way, it's the second largest tap room in the state of Minnesota, inside a former Spam Can factory. You can find Black Stack also inside US Bank Stadium during Vikings games during the fall, too. So this place is phenomenal. We had a Purple Daily Unplugged there a few weeks ago. It's just a great place to bring some friends, kick back on one of their couches with a beer, a hard seltzer cocktail, a boozy slushie, a 190-inch big screen TV. Blackstackbrewing.com to find out what they are up to. So, Thor, you've got the Thor 500 out here, and we'll get into a bunch of Vikings-related things, but I'm just going to read these are Thor's top players, according to Thor, and their comps. Travis Hunter, you have as the number one player on your board. Shohei Ohtani is his comp, which I love that.
That's awesome.
And Andrew Berry, by the way, the Browns GM, he had his press conference this morning, stole my comp. Shamelessly stole my comp. Compared Travis Hunter to Shohei Ohtani. Called him a unicorn. I haven't stopped saying either of those things last couple months.
Wow. So the Browns are stealing from you now.
Yeah, they're stealing from the Thor 500.
Yeah,
That's
maybe the
impressive.
Falcons should take some notes.
Well, that would imply that Terry Fontenot knows how to read.
Whoa, wow.
Oh, you hate him. You hate him so much. It's so great. I can feel it.
Abdul Carter, the edge rusher. Micah Parsons as the comp. And then you've got Ashton Jeanty as your third best player with LaDainian Tomlinson as the comp. Tyler Warren, the tight end from Penn State, you love as the fourth player on your board. Jeremy Shockey as a comp. And then just to skip around a little bit here, you have Shedeur Sanders as the eighth best player on your board and Cam Ward right behind him at 9 as QB2 with Baker Mayfield as a comp for Shedeur and Jordan Love as a comp for Cam Ward. So if you could just take us through some of your thoughts, your process on how you have the top of your Thor 500 laid out here.
Yeah, it was an interesting class. The last one we had the historical quarterback class. This quarterback class being way down, but you sort of have the two non-quarterback crown jewels at the top of the class, in Hunter and Abdul Carter. I went with Travis Hunter as my top player. He was bell to bell, top of my board. The utility of getting the cornerback one with the wide receiver one with him, I think the value of that's going to be absurd at the next level. He's just so good. But yeah, the player comps are my favorite thing to do. And I comp out. I end up comping out. I even got more coming tomorrow with my position rankings.
Wait, like more than 500 or like more analysis within your 500?
More comps are coming. We're gonna. It's like 6 to 650. I ranked out 750 players total, like when in my position rankings. But
wait, so you're literally ranking dudes who are going to be working at like Ameriprise in 2 years or something, right?
Some of them, but a couple of those guys way down there, we're going to get a couple gems out of there. So we're trying to find some diamonds.
I love this.
Do you need help?
Yeah.
like I'll come to your house and take you if there is draft treatment, and I don't know, but there should be. I will take you to get help.
Inpatient
yes,
draft
like I'm
addiction
worried about you.
Treatment.
You need 2 months. You need 2 months of help.
Last week or 10 days ago, my days kind of blend together, but I got really deep on the international players in this class. The NFL, they have the international program now, and so the Lions last year took one in the middle rounds. There were some pretty fascinating guys. We got like one dude who's like the mountain, he's like 6'8.5", 340. He's got like 7 full wingspan. But we got some fascinating guys coming out of other parts of the world.
Actually, I have another question off your process, and then I'd love to take us to the Vikings section of the first round, like the kind of the 24 range. But when you give these comps, first of all, it is wildly entertaining just as a content consumer. So like bravo on, I know that, you're not saying that every one of these guys is going to equal that comp. My question for you on that process is, you're basically saying if Kelvin Banks Jr. becomes like the 90th percentile version of Kelvin Banks Jr., it'll look a lot like Deion Dawkins, right? Like take us through that comp process.
Yeah, I'm trying to put a totem in the reader's head that's as close as I can to how I see that player in 2 words, another person's name. I mean, that's what it is, and sometimes we're talking about measurables and what I think they could become, right? Or a career progression thing. But I try to stay within the parameters of that guy's frame and then his athletic profile. You don't want to stray too far outside that, and then obviously playing style, and you want to get as well an idea of that player's career type, like what it could be. You sometimes can't hit all 4 like with one bullet, but as close as you can to give the reader and as close to an accurate totem as how you see him as you can.
So Thor, on this too, when you put this together now at the end of the day, does this draft class in its totality, does it make sense to take a quarterback at 1, or is that being done because of, oh my God, if we don't have a quarterback, we can't really start to build a franchise? Because I'm with you. Travis Hunter feels like a very special talent, like a very, very special, unique player. So I'm wondering if this is a situation, since you're basically looking at this from an unbiased perspective, is this a draft in which it ultimately is a bigger gamble than it might be worth to take Cam Ward at 1, although he almost certainly will go 1?
For sure. Yeah, this is a bad year to have the number 1 overall pick. I mean, really what I would have done if I was them, I would take Travis Hunter. But, they would have had to do something else with they would have had to sign our boy Sam, a couple months ago or whatever, or something like that. You're not going to go into next year with Will Levis. But, yeah, sitting there at the first pick, you're in a tough spot in this specific class. Shadir Sanders, Cam Ward, whoever you like more on that. The people in my industry, the question of if you put the last 2 quarterback classes together, I haven't heard one guy say that they would have had either of those 2 guys in their top 3 quarterbacks, right? If you just put them into last year's class, right? For me, it's 5 and 6 if you shove those 2 together. But like the Titans, the Borgazzi guy they hired from the Chiefs, and then one of the other new executives they were saying we will not pass on a generational talent with the first pick. They said this months ago. They're going to. Travis Hunter is your generational talent, and you can make the argument for Abdul Carter too. I don't know how you're going to make an argument for Cam Ward, who again would have been ranked 5th or 6th if you shoved the 2 quarterback classes together. You are objectively reaching for a non-elite player prospect, right? As opposed to the generational prospect who actually is on the board.
Why do you personally prefer or have Shedeur Sanders ranked higher than Cam Ward?
Accuracy is way better. Placement is way better, and he takes way better care of the ball. He was also better over the course of his career. You know, you look, Cam Ward got 5 seasons. One of them was truncated. Shedeur 4. They both have plenty of snaps, but Shedeur Sanders was better over the body of work. Cam Ward statistically last year was better in a far better situation. Right, he was playing in a Shannon Dawson offense. Shannon Dawson, the modified air raid guy, he was the one, Tank Dell, when he put up the bazooka numbers, that was under Shannon Dawson. At Houston, you were in that. You had 3 starting receivers in this draft class, NFL guys, right? 3 guys that were at the combine, Restrepo, Brown, and then Jacoby George. And then you also had Elijah Arroyo, who's going to be a 2nd-round tight end in this class. And then Damian Martinez, who's a day 2 running back, right? And you were playing behind a good offensive line. Mario Cristobal teams always have good offensive lines. Whereas Shedeur Sanders, you were playing behind a Swiss cheese offensive line, once again, without aid of a running game. So defense could pin their ears back against a Swiss cheese offensive line. And that's why he faced the preponderance of pressure that he did. People talk about the elevated sack rate with Shedeur Sanders without talking about the quality or lack thereof of the offensive line that he played behind. And also without mentioning that he managed to take care of the ball over heavy volume, even despite the fact that he was under duress all the time. Yeah. With Cam Ward, you get the higher ceiling for sure because he has the better arm. But my supposition has always been the more explosive plays you get with Cam Ward, it's in direct conjunction. It comes from the same impetus of the thing that elevates his turnover rate. And you won't be able to raise or lower one or the other without the other one going up or down in kind. Right. And so it's always going to sort of be like that. Whereas with Shedeur Sanders, it's just even Steven. It's a chain mover. Is not going to turn the ball over.
On where the Vikings stand here at 24. So we had a scoop session with Doogie today, which people can find, and that'll be available in the Purple Daily feed too. But Mackie and Judd. So they're sitting at 24, and Doogie said it's actually going to be harder to trade back based on what he's hearing. That we all think like, oh, it's an automatic trade back, but that based on sort of the plateauing of talent, that it might not be as easy as like, oh, there's 8 offers coming in for you to trade back, that they might actually just have to stick and pick there and find other ways to get extra draft picks from what he's hearing. So my question for you, Thor, is how much do you think the Vikings will stick to best player available at 24? Like if I'm looking at your Thor 500 right now. I mean, obviously, if like Walter Nolan, who you have 15th, he's a defensive tackle, and that's a long-term need for the Vikings. If a guy like him is at 24, all right, it's kind of take the guy in the trenches. But what if it's like Colston Loveland is your tight end too? I don't think Tyler Warren's going to fall that far, but like the second best tight end and a guy that you have 20, you have him a few slots above where the Vikings are. Or let's say that your wide receiver 1, McMillan from Arizona, somehow is still there at 24. And it's a position we're not really thinking about the Vikings taking. How far would you take the BPA strategy at 24 if you're Kwesi?
I still think it's going to be BPA within position buckets, which is, generally, especially when you're close as a contender. And I think like offensive line, defensive line, secondary. Right. And in that scenario, Phil, that you're talking about like a guy falls down the board who absolutely shouldn't be there, but from a different position, that's the thing that's going to open up the calls to trade down. Right. Like, that's where you would start. Like, I have a hard time believing Teterow McMillan, for instance, is going to get even past the Cowboys who sit at 12. But let's say they go in a different direction. Something wonky happens. Let's say Ashton Genty somehow falls out of the top 10. gets to Dallas, so that it sort of reshuffles the deck on how the top skill guys are going, and McMillan ends up, teams are going defensive trenches or whatever in between, and he's there. You would have teams like the Cowboys and some of these different teams trying to move up there. Now, I mean, how far would you want to move down, whatever, but I think that would be the more plausible outcome there. But the Vikings will get phone calls, when they're on the clock. It's just, will this situation, the prospects available, be attractive enough to get juice worth the squeeze in that trade down? You guys recall Kwesi's first draft when he had that I mean, this is really since this draft, he's been damn near perfect. But the first draft, he went into that thing with a myopic view of, we have to trade down. And a guy fell to them who shouldn't have gotten there, Kyle Hamilton. And instead of just sitting there and taking Kyle Hamilton, he was like, oh, we have to trade down. And he got the extra flyers on guys that were a bridge to nowhere, 2 years away from being 2 years away. That's my scouting report on Andrew Booth. So
he's still 2 years from 2 years away, by the way, Andrew Booth.
That's exactly, yeah. But yeah, I mean, you didn't get the value there in that trade down, and then you sort of accelerated the issue with the prospects that you ended up picking. But I think, Phil, it's an interesting thought experiment. Guys, fall down every year that we didn't think would be there, and I think that's a scenario to watch with teams potentially the phone line ringing more.
Thor, what's your thoughts or your probably small list of players that if they do fall to 24 and the Vikings get calls on said player, you would not trade out and just pick and stick?
Will Johnson, Barron, depending on who's there, but I love Jahdae Barron. And then the top interior defensive lineman for me, and then toss Zabel and Banks onto that as well. That would probably be, and Starks is right there for me. Starks a perfect fit for the defense. He's not quite as immediate help, but he'd play a lot in his rookie season, even if he wasn't a nominal starter. And of course, he'd probably be taking over a starting spot the next year. But that'd probably be my list.
Yeah, there's got to be something appealing too if it is a Gray Zabel or one of these offensive linemen. That would really complete your 5 offensive linemen in front of JJ McCarthy, right? That I have to think that's a big thought in their head. We've revamped 2 of these spots, and we're kind of 50-50 on Blake Brandel, but boy, if Gray Zabel would jump in here and he'd be the starting left guard right away, boom, you're good for 2025 on paper, and then he could also just once one of the other guys ages out, you can move him to a different position. So I would probably put a little extra weight on offensive line at the 24th pick, just based on Kevin O'Connell wanting that offensive line to be as pristine as possible for McCarthy.
1,000%. Yeah, I'm with you on that. That would be my leader in the clubhouse, heading in, if I had my druthers, and just who ends up being there, right? Like if Banks and Zabel are gone, you're probably not going to go that direction. Donovan Jackson from Ohio State is an intriguing name to me. I think Donovan Jackson's better than Tyler Booker in a vacuum, in particular for the Vikings. Tyler Booker, not a great fit for the zone. He's like the young powerhouse guy, but he's got heavy feet. You got cement feet. So it's like he's a phone booth player. He's like a phone booth colossus kind of a guy. Whereas Donovan Jackson, really, really good athlete. And he'd take over right away and be really good in the zone blocking system. But with Donovan Jackson, I would prefer to trade down either to the very, very end of the first round, if that's available, or the top of the second round. I prefer that price point on him, but he's an option.
So Thor, when you sit down and do this, and it's probably the first time that you actually rank players this specifically, how many surprises are there from your... if I was to have asked you a month ago, hey, who do you think is here and there? How many guys move up more significantly than you thought when it's all done at the same time? And how many guys move down who you thought at one time in a vacuum might have been ranked higher?
By position, there will be a couple guys at each. And it's all context specific. But for, I'll just give you one. At wide receiver, Isaiah Bond dropped down. I in my last update, I think I dropped him 7 spots or so in my receiver rankings, and Kyle Williams from Wazoo went the other way. Isaiah Bond, I had ranked him lower coming out of the season than some other folks, and then between that and then the nightmarish pre-draft process that he had a nightmarish season at Texas. Should have gone back to school. Now he's had a nightmare pre-draft process. He tested horribly. He claimed he was going to break the combine 40 record. Didn't even come close. And his teammate, who didn't say a word, was the fastest skill guy there. The other receiver there, Matthew Golden, the Texas wide receiver. And then the legal trouble that Isaiah Bond currently finds himself in. And he's been defiant about that. And we don't know, right? We don't know what the truth is there. But he's been pretty defiant coming out. And now he says he's going to sue the person and all this different. There's a lot of bad juju going on with that. And I had heard, you hear this about stuff every year. Last process, I heard plenty about Jermaine Burton in advance of the draft. People reaching out to yeah, you might want to drop Jermaine Burton a little bit. Not a fun guy to be around, kind of a thing. And so that stuff you have to pay attention to a little bit. But going the other way, Kyle Williams, he's a guy that just grows on you more and more the more that you watch him. Kyle Williams been around forever, and it was maybe like I was underestimating him. It was like baby blanket sort of a thing, because I used to watch Kyle Williams at UNLV 5 years ago. I mean, that guy was a 5-year starter, 3 of them at UNLV and then 2 at Wazoo, 2023 with Cam Ward. But it wasn't until this past season when Kyle Williams really blew up. But his release package at the Senior Bowl was really, really impressive. He gets separation. He gets off the line, and then he gets separation. Good route runner. And he tested decently well. His measurables aren't great, but he can play on the boundary because he can get off the line. You're not going to jam him. So anyway, like I said, just kept growing on me and the testing, stuff like that. So I ended up bumping him up.
I think what I'd love to do here is jump into a mock draft simulation where the parameters this time around are, instead of hunting for an A+ or an A, we can do, because Thor's going to be back with us on Monday. Maybe we do our last hunt for a true A+ on Monday. Let's use the Thor 500 as the big board, not the PFF. Yeah. I mean, you'll see the PFF big board on the screen. But as we're evaluating, oh man, that guy's still on the board. Let's use Thor's, and you guys can pull it up. And you at home, by the way, can pull it up on a secondary screen, the Thor 500 at fantasylife.com. And then we can kind of slow cook this mock draft simulation, because we have a bunch of questions too about potential sleepers as you have them ranked around where the Vikings are drafting. But speaking of all this draft excitement, we are 1 week away from the 2025 Purple Daily Draft Party presented by Standard Heating and Air Conditioning. We have limited tickets available still at scorenorth.com/draft. Limited VIP and limited general admission, but there are still some tickets available if you want to come be part of this fun night, this annual celebration of this football team. You guys, the audience of this podcast, scorenorth.com/draft. A shout out again to Standard Heating and Air Conditioning, 2 Men in a Junk Truck, Roku, 15% room rate discount right next door if you want to stay overnight at Element Hotel, scorenorth.com/element. And we've just gotten word at the Brixworth pre-party across the street, 3:30 to 5 o'clock next Thursday, Vikings legend Chuck Foreman's going to be hanging out. So that's Brixworth, right across the street from the Fillmore. That's where we're going to be hanging out from 3:30 to 5, and then obviously going live at 7 o'clock at the Fillmore. But Chuck Foreman's going to be there, Vikings legend. So
that's cool.
Hey, Craft Beer Fest is happening that same weekend. And so if you're really into craft beer, it's actually a great weekend for you, Dex.
Absolutely, yeah. Why wouldn't you? So MinnesotaCraftBeerFestival.com to get your tickets. Minnesota Craft Beer Festival on April 26th at the Minneapolis Convention Center. Over 80 craft beers will be available from 1 to 5 o'clock. At the Minneapolis Convention Center, pretty close, obviously right there in downtown Minneapolis. If you love beer and if you love trying different types of craft beer, this is a perfect event for you. Get your tickets, MinnesotaCraftBeerFestival.com.
Also, I mentioned Roku TV. The Roku TV in the Mackey household, at least the main one in the living room, the 65-inch Pro Series, is the thing that kind of brings us together, and the dog too. You know, sometimes we'll find some dog-friendly programming for little Miss Maya, but it's a place for us to take a deep breath after the day, fire up our favorite TV shows, sporting events, movies, and just the ease of finding programming through the search functions and the Sports Zone as well, where you can favorite and follow teams. It's never been easier to find the things that you want to watch now that Roku makes their own TVs. You can find them at Roku.com or shop at a retailer somewhere near you.
I want a mock.
All right, dudes. We got the Thor 500 as a big board. We're going to pop the PFF mock draft simulator up on the screen here, and we're going to see what happens with our Minnesota Vikings. We're going to run this thing. I think it'd be nice to trade back, but let's start this thing up and see what happens. I'm just going to click play and let's get to 24 and see what happens. You guys down for that?
Yep.
Or is there any reason why you'd want me to posit a few picks early before 24, Thor?
No, let's go to 24.
Okay. So here we go, boys. The draft has begun. We'll turbo this. And here's what we have. So Cam Ward, number 1 to the Titans. Abdul Carter to the Browns. Shadur Sanders to the Giants at 3. Will Campbell to the Patriots at 4. Travis Hunter tumbling to the Jaguars at 5. How about that?
I don't think that's going to happen.
And then at your tight end, Tyler Warren to the Jets.
Saints.
Ashton Ginty to the Saints at
wow.
9.
Okay.
How about that? Jahdae Barron to the Niners at 11. Matthew Golden's a couple receivers off the board here in the top 15. And then the Vikings. So the players picked right before the Vikings, at least of interest. Malachi Starks, the safety, off the board at 21. Walter Nolan, the defensive tackle from Mississippi, at 24. So on the screen for YouTube, you guys can see the PFF rankings and players available. But Thor, based on the Thor 500, who are the best players that have not been drafted that are?
I got Kelvin Banks 12th on my board, and he would be your immediate starter at left guard, and then you get tackle injury insurance with him as well. I do think Kelvin Banks will be a tackle in the NFL, could be a good tackle in the NFL. But there is the discussion about tackle or guard. He's going to play either, right? Depending on the team that takes him. With the Vikings, you would obviously be starting at left guard, and he'd be a day one starter there. He'd be the top guy on my board right now. Derek Harmon, I believe, would probably be next. I got Harmon 19. I got Zabel 21. I got Kenneth Grant 22 overall.
Okay. They've actually bumped Harmon down. That's funny.
That doesn't make any sense.
Down to like 42 here.
What are we?
Here's the trade offers, by the way. So right now you'd be comfortable you'd be comfortable sticking and picking Kelvin Banks if needed.
Yeah, for me, Kelvin Banks would probably be the pick.
Okay. Here's the trade offers. The Jaguars at 36 are calling. The Raiders at 37 are calling. The Patriots at 38. The Bears at 39. And then the 49ers and Cardinals in the 40s. That's moving back a long way. But
let's try the Jaguars. They got those 4 picks in the top 107.
So we'd swap the 24 and the 36. We ask for the set. We get the 70.
They're gonna give us a lot.
What else should we ask for?
107 at least.
I want my picks back.
Yeah.
Okay, the 107 is a 45% chance. If we kick
go maybe do instead of 107, do 126 and 221. I want my Spielman 7th rounder. I want my 7th rounder back.
I want my
7th rounder.
I want my 7th rounder back.
This has a 60% chance of being accepted. We would move back 12 spots out of the first round into the early second, but we pick up 3 extra picks.
Which is great, but Thor, my question is this: is passing on Banks a mistake?
I mean, I like Banks a lot. I'm sort of taking the chance here that Derek Harmon will be available after the
curious thinking.
Yeah, I mean that's where I'm at with it. We can flesh out the picks, and if Derek Harmon is available there, we made a good decision. If he's not, the comments you guys can yell at me because that would be a bad decision if we miss out on a couple of those guys.
Okay, they did reject the trade offer.
Come on.
So the other way we could do this
is Trent Baalke back in there. Let's get someone we could deal with. This Gladstone kid, the new one there, difficult to trade with.
This guy's like 12.
Yeah, exactly.
We could take away the 221, and that's a 63%.
Can we go? Can we drop from 126, 142, and keep that 7th rounder?
That's a 66%. Let's offer and see what happens.
Oh,
they're playing hardball.
Hardball. Hey Phil,
well, you could throw in.
Who's the next one? I'm sick of Gladstone. Hang up on that dude.
Sorry, Judd. You don't get to negotiate this.
Who's the next team there?
Raiders at 37.
Yeah. Let's talk to them.
So we'd swap the 24, the 37. We'd ask for the 68, which has an 89% chance of being accepted, and then the 222.
Toss. See about 180.
77%,
okay,
and the 222 is a 74%.
I want 215 too.
Oh man, this is great. 70%. So we pick up 4 extra. We move back 13 spots, pick up 4 extra picks, including the 68th overall pick.
Yeah, let's do it.
They've also rejected this trade. Why are they? They're the ones calling us.
Didn't we get rejected a bunch last week?
Yeah, we did.
I'm going to take the 215 off the board and try this version of it. There we go. All right. So
they're being nits with us in the trades. Ridiculous.
Okay, I'm gonna slow cook this a little bit here. We're gonna resume the draft at 24. So our next pick is the 37th pick. I'm gonna pause it at like 30. I'm gonna pause it at 32.
Oh no!
Hold on.
There's Harmon.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Harmon just went at 30.
Wait, has Banks not gone yet?
All right, here's who's gone here. Wow, dude.
I don't think Kelvin Banks went. Right. We might have to call the Chiefs now.
Omarion Hampton, Tyler Booker, Colston Loveland, Nick Manwari, Kenneth Grant, Gray Zabel, Derek Harmon. So the Chiefs are on the clock here, and we can't see the board.
Kelvin Banks is still there.
But Kelvin Banks is still there.
Yeah,
so
if we
move up. So we're going to move up. We're going to give the 139 is an 88%. The 180 is a 74%.
Hey, Phil, toss in on their end with 180. Go see if we can get a couple of them late 7s.
I love this, dude.
We're trying to move up.
You have one mission. It's to get all of the 7th round picks.
Rick Spielman is an artistic influence on me as much as I tried to avoid it,
Yeah. So here's what would happen. We would give up the 37 and the 180.
I like this.
To move up 6 spots, and they would kick in those 2 7th rounders.
Yeah, let's do this.
All right. They've rejected it.
Come on.
Can we get one of the 7th rounders?
How about one of the 7th rounders takes us to a 70% chance? Let's offer that. We're back in. We're back in business,
all right,
baby.
Bam! Ring it up, Kelvin Banks. Come on down.
Kelvin Banks. Here we go, baby. All right.
Their offensive line is.
The Vikings might have, certainly a top 3 offensive line at this point. And then it just becomes where in that top 3 do you rank them? With Kelvin Banks or Zabel, right? You get the stud day 1 starter at left guard there. It's your infinity stone.
Dude, this is.
And versatility.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
which
you're protected against injury, the tackle injury with Banks. Right? Brendel would kick in then for Banks, and then Banks would, on either side. But Kelvin Banks, 3-year starter left tackle at Texas after coming in as a 5-star recruit. Yep. He has crazy long arms. The reach thing, the arm length thing, not an issue for Kelvin Banks. And he was really good in the SEC as well. It's a guy that can play guard, of course, but we've seen him at left tackle. He can play right tackle. You get the versatility.
And I think that there needs to be a conversation, too, about, although things look like they're or reportedly on the right track right now, there needs to be a discussion about Darisaw. Like, he tore his knee up. So the his comeback could be short-circuited a bit. I think for the long term he's fine, but I would really love to have a left tackle that I like behind him.
And Judd, even beyond that, we've seen both him and O'Neal get nicked up, and with Darisaw, the concussion, and big time knock on wood here, but when you get 1, you have a higher preponderance for 2, and then et cetera, et cetera. Yes, but both him and O'Neal, we've seen them, stretches, miss 2 games, miss 3 games. This would inoculate you from that, because if that happened, well, Brendel goes into your starting lineup, and is it going to be as good? No, but you are protected from that. Kelvin Banks would be a legitimate NFL starting offensive tackle.
Love it.
So we go from having 4 picks to start the draft to now having 7 total picks.
Oh, we sure do.
6 remaining.
And we got Kelvin Banks in tow.
Yeah, we took the dude that you were willing to stick and pick 12th on your board, getting him at 31 here. So now we're back on the clock with the 68th overall pick, and you'll have to kind of just let's use your Thor 500 here. So the two best players on the board, according to the PFF rankings, are Kevin Winston Jr., the safety from Penn State, and then cornerback Benjamin Morrison from Notre Dame.
Hey, Phil, did you happen to see who I comped Kevin Winston Jr. to?
No.
You might want to scroll down.
No, is it the Lewis scene?
Yeah.
I did see that.
I
don't think that's gonna work.
I'm getting some questions about why are you lower on Kevin Winston Jr. There's a little bit more risk there than people are sort of baking in. You know, like Kevin Winston Jr. now, like late in the process for a couple guys in my industry, he's like the, you know, not sleeper because he was always going to go on day 2, but he's like gaining steam or whatever. But you have a guy coming off a season-ending injury, and he made flash plays the year before for sure. I question his instincts, and I question his instincts on his 2023 tape, which was pretty good, right? I mean, that's where he sort of solidified himself as the day 2 guy, even with the injury. Then you missed the full season. Now you're going to the next level. Coming off that season-ending injury and then having concerns with the instincts. With Louis Cine, obviously we didn't know Louis Cine was going to suffer the catastrophic injury, but we talked about this on this show after the Vikings drafted Louis Cine, which is like they're swinging for the fences here. And this guy, if the profile hits, he will be a star, but there is an elevated risk factor here because his instincts aren't great. And because he was surrounded by 10 future NFL starting defenders on the Georgia defense, you didn't notice that quite as much until you got super granular with his film. Kevin Winston Jr. played in the same 2023 Penn State defense. They were freaking ridiculous, right? So it was the same sort of a deal. That's my issue with Kevin Winston. The guy I like, by the way, at the safety position that I think is underrated is a Minnesotan, Xavier Watts from Notre Dame. I don't understand why that kid why people don't talk about him more. He led the NCAA in interceptions the last 2 seasons combined by far. Like both of the seasons, he was up there in I think it was 13 over the last 2 years combined. He is always there when the ball arrives at the receiver. Xavier Watts, former receiver himself, he was a position convert, and he happens to be really good at a beat before the quarterback makes the call. He triggers downhill, right? Like right when he starts the throwing motion, before the ball's out of his hand, you see Xavier Watts triggering downhill. And he takes the straight line path and he jumps passing lanes. And once he gets to the catch point, it is receiver against receiver. It's not safety against receiver, right? So just a really, really good player. And then I've seen people nitpick Xavier Watts' run defense. He actually is super duper aggressive in run defense. He take the same sort of quick trigger downhill. You know, I love him running the alley because he's absolutely fearless. He has a really interesting quirk with his run defense, if you'll oblige me for a second, that I noticed with his tape, which is he would get himself caught on his pursuit pass, either run himself beyond depth because the ball carrier, the direction changed, and he had gone too far down the straight line path, and then the ball direction changes. All of a sudden, he can't get out of it. Now he's chasing from behind. He would also bring himself into traffic, and he's not good when the offensive lineman gets his hands on him. But what I was sort of noticing, his pass to the ball are so good in the pass game. And I was thinking about that the day I was watching Watts' cut-ups, and I was like, what's going on there? Because it's the same quick trigger. It's the same play recognition. Why do I like his, the downhill thing? Why do I like that more in the pass game? It's because the direction of the ball doesn't change midair after it's thrown, right? Like he is always taking that straight line path. But again, when the plan of the running concept changes on him in the middle of the play, because a guy cuts against the grain, whatever, his pursuit path is not accommodated for that. So anyway, I want to toss that out. But that kid is a killer in pass defense, and he's going to flip the field a whole bunch in the NFL.
I love the analysis. He by the way went 49th to the Bengals in this exercise. So if that's kind of the range, the Vikings would have to obviously either move back or finagle themselves because they have the 24 and the 97 for this here at 68. What's catching your eye?
His teammate is of interest here. Benjamin Morrison. Benjamin Morrison would have been a first-round pick were it not for his season-ending hip injury. Benjamin Morrison, the son of a longtime NFL player. You have the bloodlines there. He played early at Notre Dame, was productive right away. When he's been on the field, often he was the best player on the field. but then he gets the hip injury, right? And that's the scary one, professional sports, period. What did the medical staff say when they got in with Morrison and poked around in that hip and the x-rays and all this different stuff? I don't know. And I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night, but like at this price point here, what we're the 4th pick of the 3rd round. I mean,
where do you have him?
I got Benjamin Morrison 53 overall on my board. I comp him to Paulson Adebo because Adebo is another sort of aggressive guy in jumping the passing lanes at Stanford. Very aggressive downhill trigger. And that's the thing with Morrison's game too. Breaking up the passes, getting his hands on the ball. Sometimes he's a little bit too aggressive with that. You can modulate a little bit, just like Adebo. But I'm a big fan of his game, assuming he is healthy. That's probably who I would be leaning towards here.
Yeah. Okay. Judd, you good?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Benjamin Morrison. All right, come on down. You are a Minnesota Viking.
Let's go.
And that puts us
start, boys. It's a good start.
This puts us back on the clock at 97 here. So
Phil, both those guys we just took, you look at the 2 early mock drafts from last May, both those guys would have been top 12 picks, probably maybe even top 10 in most of those exercises. The 2 guys we just took.
I love it. I mean, obviously, if Benjamin Morrison's healthy and you're getting like a top 15 caliber pick in the 3rd round at 68, that's crazy value.
Shoot the moon. You already got Asante Samuel coming in. You're already pretty set there.
That's right. Darn right.
Afford to take a shot.
So, okay, again, referring to your Thor 500 here, we're on the clock at 97 with the 139.
It's our boy Kyle Williams.
I'm in on this. Now, you have him like right around here, right? Like 98th or something, or 99th?
I got him 99. Yep.
Perfect. Okay, I'll scroll here just in case there's some other guys that you were like, whoa, okay, that guy should be way higher.
So we already took offensive. Oh, yeah, the guard in the corner.
Harold Fannin, the tight ends in here.
I'm a really big fan of Harold Fannin.
Where do you have him ranked?
Fannin, I got 71st.
Well, that's great value if we're using the Thor 500.
Hey, Thor, does the wide receiver step in as the Naylor replacement, or would he have to beat out, in your mind, Jalen Naylor? Kyle Williams.
Jalen Naylor, he would be knocked down the depth chart the second Kyle Williams had picked. He'd be he'd be the wide receiver 4 at that point.
Well, but why? So here's my question. So Harold Fannin Jr., he'd be a rookie, obviously a 3rd-round rookie, so he's not guaranteed to play a ton. But, he was one of the best pass-catching tight ends in college. He caught 117 passes as a tight end last year. You got J.J. McCarthy, who's very much used to play-action, heavy personnel at Michigan. Could you draft a Harold Fannin, Josh Oliver, T.J. Hawkinson, and commit to a ton of 12 personnel? Where you're running 2 wide receivers, 2 tight ends, more than the 3 wide receivers?
For sure. Right? I mean, they don't have a guy, unless you consider Rondale Moore, but like a guy who's like the slot is spoken for, right? And that's what Fannin, he ain't going to be in the slot every play, right? But you move him all over the place. KOC, you want to get aggressive, my man? This is the guy for you. You can line him up anywhere. Yeah, like you can do anything. Let's pop Harold Fannin. Harold Fannin time, baby. That guy shattered every FBS tight end receiving record known to mankind last year. And people are like, oh, he came up from the MAC. The MAC teams knew what Bowling Green's offense was. Get the ball to Harold. Harold was double teamed every single game. Then they played early in the season in September. They played Penn State and Texas A&M. Guess who killed them too? And those 2 teams knew what was coming. Both elite defense. Harold Fannin smoked both them too. He's a super underrated player. Big fan.
Well, Kyle Williams is currently the best player available as we sit here on the clock. 1st pick in the 5th round, wide receiver, Washington State. Thor.
Come on.
Yeah.
Kismet is kissing us right now. We got to take Kyle. Kyle, come on down.
Yep.
Okay, we're taking Kyle Williams here. This is pretty wild.
Kyle Williams, and he's a guy that McCarthy would appreciate and O'Connell would appreciate. This is a timing offense guy. Again, you play him on the boundary because he can get off the line because of that footwork with the releases, gets into his routes really quickly, and you can't funnel him one way or the other because you can't get your hands on him, right? It's too fast. Right. So then you're trailing him down the field and his measurables aren't great. So this is the phase of the route where the defender can catch up to him. But Williams pulls back ahead at the route break. His footwork is really, really good. It's like the economy of movement kind of a thing. And then he's really good accelerating out once he's slowed down his momentum so he can shoot out the other way, like laterally. And then he's open. Timing based offense guy. But, if Addison's out for the 3 games, this guy would look fine as a starter and obviously be a wide receiver 3. The other time you could do some fun mixing and matching stuff. Kyle Williams, Harold Fannin, who's going to come on the field situationally.
Hey, Thor Judd Dex with 14 touchdowns last year at Wazoo. You know what Kyle Williams has? A nose for the end zone. That's right.
14.
Yeah.
A nose for the end zone. So, okay, we're back on the clock here with the 187, which is in the 6th round. And then we have our 2 Thor specials at 222 and 251. I'll give you a scroll here. There's your guy, Ty Robinson, defensive tackle from Nebraska.
Robinson, I got hold on. I got him 150 on my board. 6'5.5", 288.
Well, that's good value then.
That's crazy value. We're at 187.
9.89 RAS on Robinson over the full game of the test, and very, very disruptive. Ty Robinson. It's more north-south with him, at least on his tape, but the effort's incredible. He was the guy who was comparing his pursuit to the T-800 in Terminator. He'll chase you all the way down the field. It's just he's that sort of a thing. That dude.
Sarah Connor.
I'll scroll here just so you can see if there's anyone else
Sarah
that.
Connor.
Yeah, sir. Exactly.
R.J. Mickens, the safety from Clemson. But Ty Robinson, this would be like 37 spots of value here according to the Thor 500. If we,
I think we go with Ty Robinson. Ty Robinson, he can be your 3-4 defensive end, right? So those 2 spots, he's going to come in, he's going to rotate in for you. But yeah, I like Ty Robinson again. He get nitpicked because he's on the older side. It was a 6-year player at Nebraska and then short arms, but that's literally it. Productive, long time starter. I think 5-year starter, I believe, Ty Robinson. So yeah.
Okay, before we make our last 2 picks here at 222 and 251, let's go to Butcher and the Boar here. You want some real meat here?
Yeah.
All right, Butcher and the Boar.
So we've been talking about offensive guards, right? Defensive tackles. We've been talking about guys that like to eat, and they don't
meat
like to
sweats.
eat. Yeah, exactly right. They want the good food, and they're going to find that in the North Loop at the Butcher and the Boar. In fact, may I suggest that the Vikings, when they draft these guys, they're going to bring them in for press conferences, right? The next thing, get in your car, go to the North Loop and show them the Butcher and the Boar. I guarantee you the food is outstanding. And if they're like, you know what, Coach, I just want a little something. I'm going to tell you right now, they've got it, the Judd Special, which is a beer, a brat, and a shot for $15. A huge handmade beer brat with sauerkraut and mustard. Perhaps they'll eat 3 of them. Any draft beer, any rail shot as well. Happy hour at the Butcher and the Boar every day, 4 to 6 p.m. If you are hungry, if you want an outstanding meal, Butcher and the Boar North Loop has the answers for you.
And then you can hop on your bike, your motorcycle, your ATV, your UTV. Go to DennisKirk.com if you love to ride. And riding season is upon us here. DennisKirk.com has over 185,000 parts, apparel, and accessories for motorcycles, ATVs, UTVs, dirt bikes, all the top brands with the most stock available compared to their closest competitors. And as we say here, free shipping on orders over $89, same-day shipping when you place the order by 6 p.m. Central Time, and lifetime returns if the product you bought is still like new and they still carry the product. Dennis Kirk will let you return it even years later. So check them out at DennisKirk.com for all your riding season needs. Football. So one thing I noticed right away here, just perusing through the Thor 500, Malachi Moore is on the board as a safety from Alabama. You've got him like 150-ish, and we're sitting at the 222?
Yeah, Malachi Moore would certainly be in play here. There's a guy that I got even higher, similar position, even though the designation, they listed different, but Jordan Hancock from Ohio State, I got him 124 on my board. Wow. Now, this is a nickel defender only. If you want to play up his game, that's what he's going to do. So, limited, quote unquote, in terms of that, but he's a very good one. So, looking for a nickel, this especially where you're at in the draft right now, that would be okay. Done.
Let's do it. Okay, that leaves us with 1 pick left here, the 251, and I'll give you a look at what positions we have filled here. Offensive line with Kelvin Banks Jr., secondary with Jordan Hancock and Benjamin Morrison, and then wide receiver / tight end with Kyle Williams and Harold Fannin Jr., and then Ty Robinson, the defensive tackle from Nebraska. So we've hit a lot of positions of need here.
Probably be running back first, linebacker second, right?
Let me filter here for you.
Thinking.
Yeah, probably. Interior linebackers.
Yeah, we'd probably be leaning running back right now if we can get one we like.
All right, so the running backs that are popping up here, and you tell us what the Thor 500 says. Raheem Sanders, Corey Kiner, Montrell Johnson Jr., Phil Maffa, and then there's a bunch of linebackers here kind of sprinkled throughout as well.
Phil Mackey Maffa, as we call him.
That's right.
Yeah.
Just a couple of football guys. Big pedigrees.
Yeah, that's right. And the Jalen, I get a kick out of it.
231?
Oh,
Phil Maffa.
The Maffa man, yeah, he's big. He's big. Now he's kind of a plotter, right? He's kind of limited. You're not gonna have on field for passing downs. That's what Will Shipley, the now Eagle, what he did for them. But yeah, the running back I would lean if we went that way would be Rocket Sanders. Of course, you guys know my feelings about Rocket, but one guy I wanted to shout out that we haven't talked about yet, just because I think it will be funny for the audience. Phil, you see that Indiana linebacker down there, Jalen Walker?
Sure.
A couple notes on him. Kurt Sidnetti, he turned around Indiana last year in the 1 year and brought them to the college football playoff. He said Jalen Walker is one of the best players he's ever coached. Was ridiculously productive for Indiana. Now he's super duper undersized. He's like a little water bug of a linebacker, but extremely active. My comp for Jalen Walker, this is why I had to hold up the show to go into this tangent, is Brian Asamoah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That either scares the crap out of us, or
we're
friend.
We're not going to take him now. But
Well, it's the seventh round, though. Like, if you get a really good special teams guy back up at the spot, it wouldn't be a disaster.
Yeah.
I think I would lean towards. Let's see if there's anyone else. Phil, just give me just quick a little bit further down.
Yeah. That's all they have there.
Our boy Sean Dolak. That's a shout out Purple Persuasion on that. Yeah, for me, I would be going with Rocket Sanders here.
Let's do it. Raheem Sanders from South Carolina.
Yeah, I love it.
6 feet, another big boy, 230 pounds there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He's just a big boy, and he runs in the low 4.4s. Now, he can't switch side to side very well, but you want that locomotive north-south, and then he gets the speed to power going. That's what you get with Rocket. 230-pounder runs a 4.42.
All right, so again, we did not set out for like an A or an A plus here because we were not trying to game the PFF big board. We were gaming the Thor 500.
A minus.
So A minus.
That's my prediction.
A minus on Kelvin Banks Jr.
But the whole thing, I think.
A plus on Benjamin Morrison. Yeah. Okay, they didn't like the Harold fan, but
yeah,
A
but then you got A plus on Kyle Williams.
This is
Let's go!
We did it!
We did it! We did it!
The flag is on the table! A plus with the Thor 500. Take that, Peter.
He said we couldn't do it.
You beat PFF at their own game.
Let's go. Let's go.
Let's go.
Oh, do I see the Finsters getting involved?
Yes, we did it.
Oh, Vinny.
Ooh, your heart's going like crazy. It's like Thor's.
Vinny's like, my dad is nuts. Thor's like, I'm on my 18th beverage today.
Oh, wow. We finally, all we needed was the Thor 500 as our compass to hit the A plus here, boys.
Oh my
Love
God.
it, man. You can go through all of Thor's top 500 players and NFL comps and a Major League Baseball comp at fantasylife.com. You can follow him at ThorKU on Twitter. Bonus Thursday on Monday. And then, again, we'll do another thing. We'll for sure be live and or pre-recorded Thursday morning and get you guys the last takes before the actual draft. So, and again, scorenorth.com/draft. Limited tickets available. Thor, we love you, dude. Thank you. Maybe go take a nap.
Go sleep.
I'll sleep in May. This stuff is fun.
Rank the Swedish football players now. Go find guys from Sweden.
That's what we're doing on Monday. We're going to rank out the international players in this class.
Love it, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll find the next Moritz Boehringer here.
Yep. The German YouTube, as Rick Spielman once called it.
We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. See you guys.